Good evening, everyone. This is Mudita Bansal, and I extend a very warm welcome to all of you in today's Jobinar. So, I know that you've come here through invite, so you know what is going to happen here. Everyday products that you use, for example, your tea, your packet of chips, your daily essentials, all of these come from factories where engineering processes and people work together at a very high scale. But today, manufacturing is no longer just about machines and manpower. It's about data, intelligence, and real-time decisions. Across leading FMCG companies, AI and digital technologies are transforming the factory floors, the supply chains, and quality systems, making operations smarter, faster, and more efficient. So today's session specifically be designed for you students, where we want you to understand how AI is actually changing the dynamics of FMCG and manufacturing, what skills the FMCG and manufacturing industries are looking for, and how various roles are evolving in these industries. We are privileged to have with us a very senior industry leader from Tata Consumer Products with deep experience in operations excellence and large-scale manufacturing transformation. He brings real industry stories on how AI, engineering, and domain knowledge come together to create impact at scale. And mind you, this session is not going to be just theory or buzzwords. It's about real-world learning from the factory floor. So listen closely, think beyond your textbooks, and imagine where you fit into the future of manufacturing and FMCG. With that, it's my pleasure to invite our speaker to begin the session. Please welcome Mr. Devender Reddy, Senior Vice President at Tata Consumer Products. Mr. Reddy brings with him over 33 years of extensive experience across FMCG, B2B marketing, business development, and operations. As a student, he's done his mechanical engineering from NIT Warangal, and he's an IIM Kolkata alumni as well. And he spent 25 prime years of his career with ITC Limited, contributing to various divisions there. And since 2018, he's been a part of the Tata Group, leading operations, safety, and material procurement. We're deeply privileged to have you with us, sir. A very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Devender Reddy talking to us. Let us first start with the basic question, Mr. Devender Reddy. What is exactly AI, ML, DL, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning? Please, your views.
Yeah. So first of all, please understand that AI is a very, very broad term, right? And they're perhaps used interchangeably sometimes, but if we understand basically that AI is a broad discipline, right? Which then, which is a capable, these systems, it's a system, right? It's a software system and clubbed with hardware many a times. What does it do different from software that we are used to is that AI has human-like cognitive capabilities. That's the difference. And what are those cognitive capabilities? It could be perception, right? Perception, reasoning. You create ability, learning ability, which is capabilities, right? These are all learning capability, decision capability, and a understanding of language. Now, these are all encompassed into what we call as the cognitive capability that you're building into a software system, integrated with or without software. Of course, every software requires a hardware to run on it. So this is AI is a broad discipline, right? Now, in AI, as a subset of AI, you have machine learning. Machine learning is basically that you give a certain set of inputs and there is a rule-based output. And I will not get into a deeper aspect of whether it is supervised, unsupervised. Again, saying to understand that this is based on some rule-based expert systems, right? So that would, you would essentially create a certain set of decision rules, and then there is a certain set of output that is desired. That is broadly what, at this point of time, it suffice to understand that although machine learning is a subset of AI, but machine is at the core of artificial intelligence. Now, deep learning looks at other than the mathematics, right? You have mathematics, coding, design of all of that. What we are really looking at in terms of deep learning is that what does deep refer to? And I think this is what you should understand in that way. Refers to multiple layers between an input and output. That's all. It gets into much more deeper layers, and it is a subset of machine learning, by the way. But it is much deeper than, understand it. It has got a stack. Deep learning is essentially deep, gets into many more layers between the input and output. There is an input and an output, but it is also structurally, the system is thinking into to learn this hierarchical representation of data, multi-layered, and this gets into a realm of neural networks, right? And that therefore the traditional, if I have to distinguish deep layer and machine learning, traditional machine learning, I wouldn't call, because deep learning is somewhere a subset of machine learning, is that the traditional machine learning works well on a very structured and tabular data, right? All of us. But something that it works on certain features, it requires to work on certain images or on videos or on speech, and then develops a pattern or a recognition and then builds intelligence, that is deep learning. So it's one and the same. The other is more hierarchical structures, unstructured. I would say it will be something making intelligent or unstructured data is deep learning. Structured data is and requires certain feature engineering is more of machine learning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for setting the context.
Yeah.
So now, over the last decade, how has AI changed the large FMCG companies like Tata Consumer Products, how they run their factories and their supply chains? I think it would be great to know from you what is the biggest shift that you've personally witnessed in this space.
Yeah. So if you look at factories at some level have been working with, if you look at traditionally, have been working with something called as decision support systems, right? If then is also a level of intelligence that you build into machines, right? So these are all 60s or even 70s phenomena, right? You also had PLCs, which are a form of intelligence which you're building. You give them an if-then loop, which is they basically you're building certain decision rules in a structured way. So therefore, the features of cognitive ability is what is coming in now, but intelligence you've already built in from a very long time. I would say a few decades altogether. Now, with the current features of deep learning, where you would have vision systems for embedding into daily operations. For example, you would need to recognize, say, characters on or differentiating between two different, and I come from the tea industry, two different packs, right? Earlier, the systems, you could not distinguish these two. Perhaps you would have an automation where the particular machine knew that there was a bag and you oriented the bag in such a way so that it can be automatically packed. Now, with vision systems developed, you could teach the computer to on two fronts. Say, for example, you could use vision systems, and we do use certain vision systems to actually separate out good and bad material. It could be foreign material, it could be good and bad material, it could be the good material but distinguish between, say, a blue colored pack versus a red color pack,
Packet.
right? and not only a blue colored versus a red color pack, but something that is different. To say something is of X brand versus Y brand, or on the characters written, suppose you could also say that there are statutory, all of you note that every pack carries on its certain statutory um, printing. It would be in the form of MRP, maximum retail price. It could be in terms of where it is manufactured, what is the batch code. And it so happens that sometimes traditional systems may miss out, right? Sometimes you could have manpower who check whether these are available. But now it is possible for these characters to be read and highlighted, saying that, and gives an aid to humans. So therefore, is it really all in all replacing humans to the poll that you've done earlier? Here you have a classic example where it is actually aiding humans in improved productivity, reducing cost. So the probably what would happen is, I would say it is just replacing, but it will also shift the value curve. It's like when computers came in, people, it's the same thing, right? They're saying that computers will replace every human being. I've heard this before. But what we've seen is that it has only created more value, created more jobs, created more intelligence in the system, and actually accelerated productivity. I would guess that to be so, and I hope that to be so. The jury is still out on that. But certainly, I would see AI as a I mean, there are a lot of things to be written, but which have been written these days. But I would still think that this is a huge productivity driver from a factory context. And that say, mobile apps or what you see on your social media, I would not like to comment.
So that we did the second poll. When
Yeah.
we think about AI in factories, we start imagining robots who have replaced the people and they are all over the shop floor.
Yeah.
So, what does actually AI mean in the day-to-day manufacturing floor, sir?
Yeah. So probably we can put up some slides too, but let me see, robotics is just one aspect, right? Now, what we are actually looking at in terms of, and there's there on the slide, I would draw attention to the slide here. What does AI in factories mean? Right? We all heard automation, all of us know automation as it is. We are moving from automation to operational intelligence. And intelligence, as I mentioned earlier, is what? It is creating human-like cognitive ability. Your ability, there is a lot of data that is generated in automation. Not just robotics is one part of some. It could be a pick and place kind of a scenario or moving something, but in a factory, a lot of these are static systems, right? It is not that there is loading and unloading and movement of perhaps material or boxes or whatever. That could be robotics driven, or there could be robotics manufacturing. A lot of it would also be that there is a lot of data that is getting churned, right? um, what the AI is helping do is to learn from that data. There's a lot of data that is coming in. As you produce, there is a lot of data. It could be that you have a number of packs that are getting produced per hour. It could be that there is a machine breakdown in a certain plant. It could be that there is a, you know, particular batch which is giving you excellent results, which is my second point here. You move beyond a rule base. The automation is rule based, if and then, but you could use this data, what is there in the first point, to be able to do a prediction of your next production run or plan for your future product. You're building in all that data, which was also being done by humans, but you're doing it at scale. It can be done much faster in terms of both prediction ability and optimization, which is now, if you look at a lot of supply chain planning, is can be done on a predictive basis where you can use the uh, demand from the market in a much more faster way, and the signals are picked up instead of doing it on an Excel based system and you wait for data to come in. Sometimes the signals can be picked up from the market faster, and then you could change that the availability of material, availability, which factory to run, which product to run, can be done, taken in a much more faster way, which is what you're teaching your system, building that intelligence to do a predictive analysis, right? So what does AI support? And a lot of you have said that it is replacing manpower. Maybe a certain set of manpower, but essentially, and I would believe that in food FMCG and in any industry, I would say AI, what does it do? It would support the plant managers with what, because what do managers at one level do? They take decisions, right?
Take
And
decisions
if
based on data. Yeah.
based on data, and very often it is not based on intuition too, right? Now here is giving you a certain decisions at a fast pace. You can actually change the rules, or you can perhaps adapt, be agile about your decision making. That's all that I would say, right? Therefore, at a first layer in a factory, the AI would support, give you a decision support capability. It creates a layer of decision support. Perhaps you had one or two managers, or in fact, the intuition of the manager or the learning of the manager to support. Perhaps you would have decisions. Here you do have more optimized decisions, or one more layer of decision support for the factory manager or the plant manager or the plant engineer to take decisions at a faster velocity.
Thank you. There's another slide here. Yes.
Yeah. So how does it fit into a food manufacturing typical setup, right? So now you already had earlier hitherto, if some of you have been into the manufacturing fold or have studied their engineering, or perhaps even not study engineering, all of you know that there is data sources. And for example, if somebody is got uh, example of a car, the car has multiple sensors, right? It is sensing temperature, it is sensing, in some of the cars today, it's sensing whether somebody's worn a seat belt or whatever. There is sensorization. There is also PLCs which actually automate. This is automation using programmable logic controls. And there is ERP software, there is enterprise software, there is quality management system, there's data coming in from supply chain systems, and all of this. This data is coming in at a certain velocity, which 99% of the time you are not leveraging all of this data at this point of time, right? Because you have, as human cognitive ability, you have that limited time to be able, and you're actually doing multiple things. But then by using these AI engines, which is either using your machine learning algorithms or predictive analytics, or like earlier gave the example of computer vision, you could then use this to actually prevent failure or predict a failure, and therefore you can take actions earlier. Then, so isn't it an aspect where you're improving productivity, you're reducing waste? So instead of looking at something as solely something that will replace people, I would then tend to think that what AI would therefore do is to convert all this data that you have into operational signals, that these are actionable, that you would be then help you to improve your decision making power, and therefore it will give you operational signals or operational you know actionable operational signals, as I would call it, something that will help you take decisive actions to prevent a failure, or create an alert when quality is going wrong much earlier than what it was earlier, right? Or even in terms of scheduling, what to schedule. It could be scheduling of production runs. It could be scheduling. So, what to produce first. And all of you know that in the current context, you walk into a mall or you walk into a factory, you would have many variants of of biscuits, or maybe variants of snacks, or many variants of tea. Have you ever wondered that how are these produced these days? So many variants, and therefore it depends, and it is a struggle humanly to be able to take the right decision to see which is the one that which is the particular variant that you would run first and run second, schedule it and then sequence it. And the sequencing is also equally important, so that you are actually, if you feed it into a system, it's converting it into in real time and telling you what it needs to be done. So therefore, these are how I would say that today there is sensorization available. You're using the sensors and the data and using that to build intelligence and recognize whether it's recognize structured learning in terms of machine learning, or using even learning techniques to be able to deliver that value to you. So it would actually therefore improve your productivity and create that you know more value into all your value chains, or for any other aspect of life today.
Operational excellence. Okay. So, in FMCG manufacturing, what are a few challenges that AI is seen to be solving for us?
So the many challenges, right? So why is it critical? And I have a slide here. Why is it critical in the manufacturing industry? What are the challenges it is solving, right? Now, I told you that we have many variants coming in. You have number of flavors, you have number of shapes of biscuits. This is actually trying to customize value or customize products for consumers. Essentially, we're moving to mass customization. If all of you have heard, right? That there is a target group and there is a product being produced for each individual group. So therefore, if I take the example of motorcycles from FMCG, you would have a motorcycle for the young going boy, which is different from a 30-year-old man versus probably somebody who's into his late 40s. The seating would be different, the CC would be different, the colors would be different, right? So you're doing mass customization. Unlike, maybe 30 years back, you had one or two variants at best, and maybe the varianting was in terms of color. So therefore, what happens is that this tends to bring in a lot of uncertainty in the production process, which can be unplanned. And therefore, what I've said is that there will be a high cost of these unplanned downtimes. Why would be unplanned? Because you don't know what is the changing scenario in the market, and it's in a competitive market, right? Now, there is also an increasing cost, and therefore, what you need to actually extract out the last or extract more efficiency from the same resource, which is in this case would be the plant. And these days, plants have become more sophisticated, become more costly. So how do you run more effectively and improve your OEEs, right? Or operational or effectiveness, right? There is also volatility. Now with the SKUs will also volatility. They tend to choose how no all of you walk into a market, it is that today you will take a tomato flavor versus maybe a peri peri flavor. So therefore, what it does to the production system is there is volatility. They do not know what is the nature of demand that is going to come next week, and therefore it would require that's another challenge. And therefore, how is the challenge to be addressed? Unless you are actually thinking in real term, and human capacity is limited by time and priorities, and therefore you would have a decision making aid like an AI that can be built to be able to prioritize and schedule, which I talked about earlier, right? So, and there are food safety requirements, there are quality requirements, then there is rising energy cost. Now, how all these systems need to be operated? What exactly? Because you're not having your eyes and ears at every aspect of operations, or even some aspects of uh, external to the factory, internal to the factories, whatever. But then it is possible for you to sensorize it in whatever manner the system can cognize for all of these developing inputs and then give you decision support. So I think there are many
Uh,
avenues in which AI
so,
can work on,
if
right?
I may intervene, sir,
So yeah, please.
you were talking about real-time data and how that is being used to analyze what should be produced next
Yeah,
and when and where.
yeah,
The trends would also be taken into consideration, maybe what season, what
yeah, yeah.
area.
So absolutely. So absolutely. So you could feed in data on seasonality. It could also feed in data of today is a bandh, right? So some of it could cognize what happened during the bandh, the last 15 bandhs or last 10 bandhs or similar bandhs or whatever, and see what how is it has got affected, which cities have got affected, what kind of transport has got affected, how have prices responded in the market. It could be transport prices, have there been change in transport prices, what about labor availability. Now this is too much to even put it onto an Excel and work on, right? uh, Perhaps then you're reading signals of not only, and earlier perhaps what you were looking at where you're automating systems is you had data within your company. Today it is possible for AI to be actually crowdsourcing that data, uh, working on unstructured, like I said, right? It could perhaps look at
From
some
social
other,
media and other channels.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, and then giving you uh, trends, working on trends, sometimes real time, sometimes near time. When I say real time, it could be that it could be a in a factory context, even if it is a lag of a day or two, it still is real time, right? But otherwise, sometimes you're not seeing data for a month. So that's become more and more the thing. So I have certain examples for you, and these are what I've picked from their what's out in the open. So what does HUL do? HUL uses AI for SKU level forecasting, regional forecasting. You can do a forecasting. See, all of you, most of you you can forecast a broad level to say that something will, um, uh, some demand is expected to rise. All of you know that, during the summer season, ice cream sales are expected to increase, right? But can you predict what flavor is going to increase? If chocolate prices in Ivory Coast have increased twofold, or and I bet it is fivefold or more this year or last year, then how is it going to impact your demand planning? So that what it is doing is then you plan for that demand and then you forecast it based on certain intelligence to say that this is going to be your demand, rather than just take historical data. Sometimes trend is your best friend, but sometimes trends can also go the wrong way if you have, because trend is only considering a decision point in one point of time. But what it can also layer, and you can use the examples to layer real time data. What I mean by saying real time is that you can layer your trend information using real and taking real time information to be able to take better decisions. That's the difference, right? Similarly,
Does is the system capable of giving suggestions also? What new you can bring in? Is it an idea generating
yes,
system also?
yes, that's the whole thing, right? When you say cognitive, it is learning. It is also can give you a lot of ideas, of course. And it could perhaps also give you generate options among the ideas and give you perhaps ideas, so that then, yeah, ultimately the human agency is not removed. Let me tell you this. It will
Yeah,
be a
because the
rare
idea has
instance,
to be approved by a human,
approved,
the
authorized,
plant head, the CEO. Yeah.
and somebody takes responsibility. But you can't put responsibility on the AI system, right? So therefore, but what I mean to say is that think of it as, you know um, upheaval happening, definitely, in terms of the way that you create the value. But the values, therefore the value curve is shifting into a response to also what is there in the market today. These have not come because AI has come in. There is a requirement. Perhaps it's also uh, learning from the systems where you want more variety, you want more, uh, different trends, and therefore you have all of these system response to that, right? So uh, yeah, so you are actually having more intelligent data, rather than, an Excel will give you perhaps structured, but if you want a non-structured data taking into other aspects other than the mathematics of it, perhaps AI would be able to resolve some of those issues for you.
Thank you so much, sir. Wonderful examples. We can actually visualize. I mean, I could actually visualize what could go on, and I could be wrong, no doubt. But yeah, there is a hint of visualization that I really got into it. So the next question I have for you is that when we talk about AI in factories, again, we imagine the shop floor with a lot of physical activity going on the floor. But
Yeah.
there is a lot happening at the back end also with respect to the operations. You mentioned some use cases here, but if you want to, if you can throw some more light on how the operations are getting impacted with AI.
Yeah. So if you look at on the shop floor, if you're looking at, say, one is operations, right? You have an input and an output. That's as simple as that. Then you have systems which will help you. Probably you have PLCs, your automation, your improving productivity. But there is a lot other happening which will help you in operations or help you in terms of financials. At like a predictive maintenance, something is not yet happened. But would it be a great idea that there is a failure that basing on your historical trends, not only trends within your factory, perhaps AI is also searching for looking at trends that are available on similar machines, on similar products, and then be able to construct a prediction for you to say that this is a time that I have a failure, right? So that then you're planning better particular failure, which is not in the ambit of current operations, but you're thinking ahead and helps you to plan better. You know that there should be a spare part ready, or you could foretell your customers saying that at this point of time I need to take a shutdown earlier so that it prevents a larger breakdown. So that's one use case. So the second use case I could see, I've already talked about computer vision and energy optimization. The other one is your process optimization, right? Um, tuning of the plant. A lot of you do a tuning of a guitar, but who does the tuning of a plant? And the tuning is done individually by operators at different levels. But if you want the tune parameters to be able to give you the best and most consistent product and enhanced, outputs, then perhaps now who does that? There is perhaps a continuous improvement team. There is teams that are working offline, obviously not working as the product is being produced here and now today. Perhaps it takes months, but then this is giving you options at scale, and therefore the AI would be able to uh, tune all of these parameters to be able to give you the best a well what do you best fit kind of product to be able to give you with less wastage, better quality, and more productivity.
We have another slide, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. What does it mean for the operational leaders?
Yeah. So for operations leaders, what does it mean? And it is an aid. That's why I'm saying, right? A lot of you who've been in operations, and it could be IT operations, it could be manufacturing operations. A lot of your time is going into reactive firefighting. You're reacting to a situation, right? Increasingly, I would see that you would be able to predict. There is I would say emphasize on predictive. It is not that everything you will be doing a prediction. There's always uh, you're taking in data or tuning in data, but you will increase. I foresee that we will be as operational leaders reacting less reactive and being more proactive. You heard the word being be more proactive. So this is one aid which will help you to be more proactive, right? And when the intelligence is embedded into your overall operations, MES, there is, the actually it's an execution manufacturing execution system, and your daily workflows. How do you do work? Uh, that value is created, like I told you, whatever use cases are given. If you are embedding it into your daily operations, then you're going to see the higher value in terms of better outputs, lower cost, lower wastage, right? And what does it mean for, when I say what does it mean for food operation leaders? Very often these are all started either as an IT pilot, right? You pilot and you say it's an IT pilot, it's a digital transformation. Sometimes it is goes into your IT department, but it's less of an IT project. If you notice everything I've said, IT is today available, right? A lot of people are saying that there is no coding required. Coding is being done by your that may be, even it may
Yeah,
be true in
bots.
parts, it may not be true in so many parts, right? So these days a lot of things come into the press, but what is essential is therefore it helps you to do a process thinking better, right? So therefore the operations ownership in whichever field that we're talking is critical. You understand your operations better for you to be able to enable, give you a better this thing, right? So these days, if you look at, there is a whole, uh, study or work or a lot of, I see a lot of people teaching something called prompt engineering. You prompt AI would give you a better result, right? Not all, you don't get the same answer from AI. Like earlier, if you had Google or if you had this thing, perhaps you search for a particular thing, you got the same result. But through a prompt that you have today, you would perhaps get very different results depending upon what is your objective, what is the context. And people increasingly say you have to give context to the AI. AI is working on context these days. So therefore, it is your ownership as operations leaders to contextualize, and contextualize can only be done by you because you are working in a context, right? And therefore it again brings back people at the heart of the operation, right? And perhaps relieve some of the mundane work that you were doing for better learning, better perhaps, and you need to increasingly learn more, keep learning on this because things would change rapidly. So therefore a lot of what it means for operational leaders is that it would need a lot of operational discipline, right? And it's not just about technology. The IT technology is available. It's about understanding operations better, contextualizing your operations better, so that you create additional value. You can use AI to converse with it and have fun, but you can use AI to actually drive better value.
Somehow my Slido is not getting opened. Meanwhile, there is a very interesting question from Devesh. Mr. Reddy, he's asking,
Yeah.
in today's professional landscape where AI is increasingly integrated into various fields, a
Mhm.
critical question arises regarding accountability. If AI system makes a significant error which negatively impacts a company, who bears the responsibility for these outcomes?
See, ultimately, who's using the AI, right? AI is for you. And that's why I'm saying that the agency, I mean, it is like saying that computers, when computers have come in, earlier you would have people write on paper and then calculate on paper, right? It's like then you moved from calculation on paper to a calculation on your computer, and perhaps you had some level of intelligence, a higher level of intelligence built into a computer. But then there is an input and an output that you are providing, which in the, actually I'm talking in the context of manufacturing operations, right? Whether you take responsibility for social media, I'm not an expert in that area, but in the context of operations, in the context of business systems, business